Hello class, welcome to Chapter 2, Thinking Like an Economist.
Usually, economists play two roles: the scientists and the policy advisors. For scientists, usually economists try to explain the world. Why this happened? Why that happened? But for policy advisors, they just try to improve. They do not explain why this happened, not on fact. Just their opinion, like why. Just the opinion, like what we should do to improve, to get better. Like what the tax level bracket should be. Just the opinion, right? As scientists, economists play implied scientific model. Dispassionate development and testing of theories about how the world works. First, it should be dispassionate. You cannot do something like that. I have a prior thought, and I only want to find the evidence to test my thought. That's not science. It should be in the neutral. The second one, devise theories, collect data, and analyze this data to verify or refute their theories. The third one, economists make assumptions. For all economists, when we have some models, we have to make assumptions. Just because we cannot make the whole real world, all elements of the real world true or something. We must eliminate some elements to group up or explain our own model. So simplify the complex world and make it easier to understand. For example, to study international trade, assume only two countries are producing two goods. So when we simplify some examples or the complex world, it could make us live better, and also it will not influence us to get a conclusion. Think about the maps, right? The maps do not include like how high the buildings, the trees, the people on the road, or the cars, or whatever. But it will not influence to get you direction, to get you to take you go to your destination, right? So that's one way to get out of the details. Have some assumptions. Your assumption that these details will not influence your result, and then you can do your own research. Usually, we have assumptions first. And every economic model relies on some set of assumptions. Again, economists use models to study economic issues. So we are going to learn two models here in this chapter, and this is the first model. Circular flow diagram. Visual model of the economy shows how dollars flow through markets among households and firms. That's the circular flow diagram. We saw it shows how dollars flow. And the assumption for this model is there are only two decision makers. There are firms and household. No government, no international trade, nothing else. Only firms and household. That's the assumption in this model. The interaction in two markets, the market for goods and services, and the market for factors of production or inputs. Let's see the model here. Again, there are two parts in this model, right? So that's our assumption. There are firms and households. For firms, they are going to buy higher factors of production, use them to produce goods and services. Here, what factors the firms or business are going to hire or rent? What kind of factors? Labor, capital, and natural resources. That's the factors we are going to use. Like the machine you just said is the capital, right? The capital usually including like computers, machines, buildings. You need to run the buildings to do something. And all these factors came from the household. labor, capital, and natural resources came from the household. Households own the factors of production. They sell them or rent them to firms for income. For firms, they sell goods and services to consumers. And for consumers, they consume goods and services. So this is a circle, right? For household, this is the market. Oh, okay, by the way, here. The product market, firms supply goods and services. So in product market, sellers are firms and the buyers are households. That's product market. For factor market, households supply labor, capital, natural resources, and other inputs used to make goods and services. So in this market, in the factor market, it's opposite to that one. The sellers are households and the buyers are firms. I think the easier way to remember this model is imagine yourself in this market. Imagine yourself as a household like here. This is the product market. You can imagine yourself go shopping. When you go shopping, you need to buy some food and services, restaurant, whatever. Food from the restaurant, whatever. You buy food from the firms, right? Or the goods, services from the firms. And then what firms will get, what you are going to give up is the money. So the green line is the money, is the cash flow. And the red line is the factors of good. So for the up one is the product market. You can imagine yourself as a consumer. You go shopping. What you are going to do? Buy services and goods, and you pay money. For the lower market, that's the factor market. You can imagine yourself as a worker. When you work to earn the money, what you are going to do? You need to sell your labor, your skills, or you can rent your land, your capital, your computers, whatever, to firms and earn money from the factor markets. So in the test or assignments, I'm going to give you a picture like that, but ignore some information, so maybe only market, product market, factor market, firms, and household. You are going to decide, or you are going to tell me what this arrow should represent. I think it's easy. Just imagine yourself as a consumer or as a worker or labor. You can figure out all the questions. And the red line, that direction, is the goods and services, factors, whatever. And the green line is the money. It's the cash flow. And the next model is also an important model. It's called the Production Possibilities Frontier, the PPF. A graph that shows the maximum attainable combinations of two goods, services, an economy can produce given available resources and the current technology. So here, I marked the maximum because for PPF, all the points on that PPF, on that curve, should be the maximum, which means the efficiency is not good, it should be the best, all right? And also with the given resources. With the given resources, you can get the best option, that's the PPF. So the graph, let's see an example together. So assume the following, a country produces only two goods. So that's the assumption, right? Because in the economic model, we need the assumption first. So the assumption is only two goods, airplanes and soybeans. And what is given is fixed amount of resources, labor. That's what's given. And also a fixed amount and the quality of technology. With what we have, the available resources and the technology can produce only soybeans, 5,000 whatever. So according to the table, we can draw a picture. Again, this 1,000 is the opportunity cost, what we need to give up if we want to increase the production of airplanes from 0 to 20. So from this picture, and as I said, the point A, B, C, D, E, and on that line, that straight line is the PPF. And any points on that straight line is the maximum combination the country, the person, or whatever can obtain. So that's the most efficient point. Efficient, the economy is getting all it can from the scarce resources available. Points on the PPF, A, B, C, D, and E. Inefficient is the level production points inside the PPF. What's the definition of inside? Is any points on the left-hand side of this straight line. That's the inside. If you see any points inside of this straight line, it's inefficient. All right? And not feasible. The points outside of this PPF is on the right-hand side of this straight line. It's not feasible. It's untenable. Because definition for the PPF is every point on this straight line is the maximum combination you can obtain, right? So any points beyond that is not feasible. So next, we have two questions. Would it be possible for economy to produce the following combinations of two moves? Point F, 80 airplanes and 4,000 tons of soybeans. Would that be possible? And how about G? So 80 airplanes here and 4,000, right? This point will be F. The next one is G, 30 airplanes and 2,500. This is G, right? From that question, you can have 2 points. And again, all the points inside of this PPF, that's possible but inefficient. Any points outside of this straight line is not possible, not feasible. So the answer should be F. F should be this point, or here. F is not possible, and for point G, it should be some point over here. It's possible, but not efficient. That's the answer for this example question here. The PPF is not only the straight line. You can also see the whole outward line here. So this one is what we saw from the last example. But this one is different. Why they are different? Why we have some straight line, but we also have some bold outward line. Because different workers have different skills. Maybe some workers are good at teaching, some workers are good at training, and some workers are good at producing. Different people have different specialties, and so put the right worker or labor in the right place could improve the productivity. That's one reason why. The other is there are different opportunity costs of producing one good in terms of the other. For the example we learned before here, if we want to give up some airplanes and get more soybeans, if the line, the PPF, is a straight line, which means if we want to get one more unit of soybeans, we always need to give up the same amount of airplanes, right? So the opportunity cost doesn't change. If I want to get one more, I have to give up some fixed amount of airplanes. But for the lower picture over here, we can see the opportunity cost is different. Such as from point A to point B. From point A, it's 400 tanks, but 0 automobiles. If I want to produce more automobiles, I need to give up some tanks because I have the fixed resources. So here, if I want to get 200 more automobiles, how many tanks I need to give up from point A to point B? What's the opportunity cost here? Yeah, it's only 50, right? From 400 to 350. So what I need to give up is only 50 tanks. That's my opportunity cost. But If I want to produce 200 more automobiles from 200 to 400, the same amount of automobiles I want to increase, right? But the opportunity cost is different. For automobile from 200 to 400, what's the opportunity cost? 350 minus 200, right? So you can see, for the first 200, I only need to give up 50 tax. But for another 200, it's 150. You can see the opportunity cost goes up. That's the reason why. If you see a straight line for PPF, which means the opportunity cost doesn't change. If the opportunity cost change, you will see a bold outward curve. And in the real world, usually we see this one, the curve line, the curve PPI. And why the opportunity cost will be different? Just because the different worker could have different skills. The shape of PPF, straight line, constant opportunity cost, like what I said, previous example, yeah. The bold outward increasing opportunity cost, as more units of goods are produced, we need to give up increasing amount of other good produced. Moving along a PPF, involving shifting resources from production of one good to the other. So, the moving along the PPF, it just you give up one product and get another product. So you compare the opportunity cost and what you are going to get. Society faces a trade-off, which means getting more of one good requires sacrificing some of the other. So again, if you want to have one more other stuff, you have to give up another. The slope of the PPI, the opportunity cost of one good in terms of the other. So for the straight line, for the fixed constant, the fixed opportunity cost, for the straight PPI, the opportunity cost will not change. It will always be the same. But again, for the bold outward curve, the opportunity cost is different. You can see when the slope is flat, the opportunity cost is small. When the slope of the curve is flat, because see here, I only need to give up a small amount of tax to get a huge amount of automobiles. But when the slope of this curve gets deeper, the opportunity cost gets bigger. So from 200 to 400, the slope is deeper than this one, and then the opportunity cost is getting bigger, right? So the opportunity cost of one good in terms of the other, that means the slope of the PPI. When it's flat, it's small. When it's steep, it's big. Next part is economic growth, the ability of the economy to increase the production of goods and services. So you have two ways to improve the economy or to get the economic growth. The first one is the technological advance. That's easier to understand. Before the computer, our productivity was low, but after the laptop or whatever, we can improve our productivity really fast. Lots of things we do not need to remember, just let the computer to remember that for you. And the second one, how to improve the economic growth, is the increase in the available labor force and the capital stock. It's also easy to understand. For PPF, the maximum combination you can get, but the prerequisite is you are given the fixed amount of resources, right? But if I give you more resources, you are going to have a bigger combination, or you can get more outputs. So from the first graph and the middle graph here, you can see no matter what reasons, either technological advance or the increase of the labor force or the capital stock, your PPF can move outside, it doesn't matter, right? With the given resources, you can produce more airplanes or more soybeans, and the same for this one. No matter the no matter the PPF is straight line or it's a curved line. But for the third picture, if I give you more resources, you should improve both, but not just in one side, right? So the only reason for you see the third graph, the only reason is the technological advance. But it's only improved in one side, but not the other. So for the third picture, the reason would be the technological advance only in automobile industry, but not in the tanks. In that way, you can see the PPF moved outside, but only in one industry, not the other. All right. So that's the difference. Next one is how to calculate the opportunity cost. Because as an economist, we need to decide what resources we need to put to produce one product. What product we should produce more, and what product we should produce less. In that way, we should calculate the opportunity cost. When the opportunity cost is lower, we should product that stuff, right? If the cost is too high, we need to give up because that's not worth it. So how to calculate the opportunity cost here in this example? Try to fill out this table. How to calculate the opportunity cost? Think about how to calculate the average cost. If we want to calculate the average cost, it should be equal to the total cost divided by the number of the product, right? So the numerator should be the currency or the price or something, the money you should use to measure your product, right? So the numerator will be the currency. And the denominator is your product. It's the product you want to investigate here. So in this question, since both two products there is no currency here, right? How to decide which one is the product, which one is the currency? Here, this is the opportunity cost of picking 1 pound of apples, right? Here, if I want to calculate the opportunity cost of apples, the apples is the product I want to investigate. So I should put apples in denominator. Apple is my product here. So for this one, the denominator should be apple. And I need to use non-stop to measure apple, which is currency here. So the cherries is the currency. If I want to calculate the opportunity cost of apples, right? So the cherries should be in numerator. So for the left graph, 2020, right? So 20 over 20 equals to 1. And for the second graph, the cherries, 60 divided by 30 equals to 2. That's how you calculate the opportunity cost. And the same for the cherries. If I want to calculate the opportunity cost of cherries, then cherries, it should be the denominator, is the product I want to investigate. And the other product would be the currency in this example, which is apple. So for the first one, it's also 2020. So this one is 30 over 60. That's how you solve this kind of questions. How to calculate the opportunity cost. Here again, how to calculate the opportunity cost? Use currency divided by products. So for the first one, apple is the products because the opportunity cost of apple is the denominator. 1, 2. And here, the opportunity cost of cherries is the product. Should be in denominator, 1.5. The Economist as policy advisor, positive statement. if we want to talk about something as positive statement, it should based on facts. Facts means we can test it. If it's correct or it's wrong, we can test it. Then it's based on fact. It's a positive statement. Attempts to describe the world as it is, just what it is correct or is wrong. We can test it. That's the positive. Confirm or refute. Even though you refute it, even though that conclusion is wrong, but still you can test it, right? You can test it and tell me that this is wrong. It's still positive statements. B, examine evidence. Minimum wage laws cause unemployment. So we can set some policy to test that. We lower or higher the minimum wage. We can see if the unemployment rate go up or go down. The second statement is normative statement. It's based on opinions. You cannot test it. You just think. That's only your thought. Attempts to describe how the world should be. It should be like this, but I don't know. That's just my opinion. It's based on opinions. Like the government should raise the minimum wage, right? And also, if you see some other word except like should, it should be like it could be like need. The government need to do that, or we will going to do something like should, need, will. This kind of word, it means normative statement, because we cannot test that. What is should? The government should do that. Why? What should mean? What's the level of should? It's not correct or wrong. You cannot test it. So it should be normative. Normative economic analysis isn't science. It's just advocacy. The positive statements can always be supported or refuted by data, as what I said. If you have data, if you have evidence, you can test it. No matter if it's correct or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's a positive statement. While normative statements require a large philosophical framework to evaluate. Your opinion, you need to evaluate, but you cannot test it. That's the difference. How about this question? The first one, is it positive or normative? Rise, the increase, right? You can test if it's increase or not. Positive, normative, and positive. And note, a statement need not to be true to be positive. It could be wrong. Why economists disagree? Economists often give conflicting policy advice. Just because it's based on difference in scientific judgment or different values. If economists have different scientific judgment, it's easier to solve because you can just test it, which one is correct. But if economists have different values, like we should do that, this one is better than the other one, we cannot test that. In that way, is the reason why economists disagree with each other, because your opinion cannot be tested. People have differences in scientific judgment because they have different positive statements. That's positive. If people have difference in values just based on opinions, you cannot test it. You cannot tell which one is correct. Then it's the normative issue. You cannot tell. Like during the pandemic, we should lower the tax. Is it correct? Is it wrong? The government are going to produce or create more money, which will cause inflation. Is that correct? We don't know. Just based on opinions. Different economists have different opinions, and we will see. How about this one? There's differences in scientific or difference in values. Alright, so all you need to decide is by if they have some word like should or I think is necessary or something like that, that's normative. You cannot use. Okay, that's basically what I want to talk about in chapter